bench today we got the Traxxas Mini Maxx, and as you can see we took off the stock shocks and we're going to go ahead and install the all aluminum GPM shocks in silver. So a couple of reasons we're going to upgrade to the GPM shocks is well, these are plastic, they have a smaller shaft, and there is no bleeder cap, so there's no screw with a hole in the cap to keep the air out. These are what we would call a bladder built shock. So there's a bladder inside the cap, and we're going to go ahead and install the GPM, which would be no bladder, and they call that an emulsion built shock. I just wanted to go ahead and install the shocks onto the Mini Maxx and show you guys. Check that out. So the shocks, they're not super horrible, but there's no adjustment in your perch. We got no spring perch adjuster, and we only have one spring rate that comes with the truck, so they're super soft and the truck just bottoms out really easily. So these aren't adjustable, and by that what I mean is, look at that, the bodies are not threaded, so there is no threaded body, and I believe maybe the truck comes with some spacers, that way you can space out the spring and make it more stiff, but we're going to go ahead and install the threaded body all aluminum GPMs. Here they are. Check these out, guys. Check these out. These are the all aluminum GPM shocks for the Mini Maxx. You guys can find these on my website, www.PnwRcMadness. I'll leave a link below, but this is part number TXMM087F-R-S-BK. So here they are. Let's go ahead and get them out of the package. And right off the bat, you can see that they come with 3 different spring rates. You're going to have the softest spring rate already installed on the shock, and then you're going to have silver, and you're going to have gold. And currently, that's what we're running on our other Mini Maxx, and that's going to be the most stiff rate. And we're going to go ahead and try out the middle rate. So we're going to take this black spring off, and we're going to install the silver spring. Before we install the shocks onto the Mini Maxx, I'm going to open them up and empty them out. And I'm going to show you guys exactly what is inside and why these are called an emulsion shock. Now, this is exactly what you're going to get when you buy your shocks. I believe they come in silver, red, blue, orange, and green. This is the silver and black. Now, a couple of awesome things about these. Well, they are all aluminum. They come with the different spring rates, and they are also adjustable. So this is what I'm talking about. Adjustable. You have the threaded shock body, and you have the threaded shock perch. Now, because the front and the rear shock bodies are the exact same length, it can get kind of confusing when you add different weight oils. In this case, we're going to add 32.5 to the rear, and we're going to put 35 in the front. Or actually, we're going to do that vice versa. We're going to do 32.5 in the front and 35 in the rear. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to mark the caps with an F and an R. That way we know which is front and rear. And I believe we're just going to go ahead and mark the cap with a little tiny F. That way we know what is front and which one is a rear. Here they are side by side. They're almost identical in size. The only thing different is the shock shaft. The X-Maxx or the Mini Maxx one is a little bit smaller than the GPM one. Let me show you guys the size difference. So let's see here. The GPM shaft is going to be 3.5 millimeters. The stock Mini Maxx shaft is going to be 3 millimeters. So about 0.5 millimeter difference in the GPM shaft. Now let me show you the weight difference. Stock Mini Maxx shock weighs 0.6 ounces, and the GPM all aluminum shock with bigger shaft is 0.8 ounces. So not that big of a difference. I told you guys I would show you what the insides look like, so let's go ahead and open them up and dump it out. And I'll show you the piston and how many holes and whatnot are in the piston. Here is the oil. Let's show you about how thick it is. That's what it looks like. No clue what is in there. I have not found out from GPM. I haven't asked them. We're just going to go ahead and add our own. So there we are. It is a 3-hole piston. with a E-clip or a C-clip on there holding it on, and they look to be about, I don't know, 1.2 millimeters by 3. Now, the shock shaft in the whole operation here feels super smooth, super nice. I haven't felt anything that feels any nicer. It feels just like the Loshi shocks, the Traxxas shocks, all the other shocks associated. Feels great. GPM has done an amazing job building these, and the quality of the build is just top notch. So the shocks come with the bladder inside, and you can take the bladder out. You still have your O-ring around the body there, and then you can turn it into an emulsion shock, and you can use the bleeder screw to bleed all the air out. Now, when you take the bleeder screw out, be careful. There's going to be a really small, this one looks to be nylon. Usually they're like a crush ring, but this is a nylon. That is going to be your washer to seal it up, so don't lose that. That's what it's going to look like with no bladder inside. And we're going to go ahead, fill them up, and bleed them. Let me show you how to do that. Go ahead, take your shock, fill it with the oil that you choose. I know you probably can't see that there, but the oil is actually doming over the top. And you're going to take your shock shaft and work it up and down. That's going to get the initial air out of the shock body. You're going to go ahead, set it in your shock holder, and let it set till all the remaining air bubbles escape the body. Okay, so your shock is sat for 5 minutes or so, and you no longer have any air bubbles rising to the top. All the air is out. Next thing you're going to do is grab your cap without the bleeder screw. Now this is super important. So we're going to go ahead and twist it down. We're going to hold the bleeder cap at a 45 angle facing up, and we're going to hold the shock just like this. Not going to tighten it all the way down, but you're going to snug it up, and then very slowly we're going to push up the shaft, and we're going to wait for any air to push out any oil out of the shock. There it is. You can wipe it out, and you do this very slowly, and this is how you're going to bleed the air out of the shock. There we go. There wasn't much air in there. I must have had the shock oil mixture just perfect. Next thing you do is take the screw and reinstall it back into the cap.